So over the course of between April and the end of August, I had quite the weight loss journey, and that's what I'm going to share with all of you today in this video. So the last handful of years, I've been doing a lot of blood work, obviously, just to, make sure I'm healthy, I'm not getting any younger. So around late April, I went to the doctor to kind of like follow up on some blood work. We ended up weighing myself just to see how much I weighed. And for someone who's 5'9", I ended up weighing 177 pounds at the time. Now, at the time, I was playing 2 to 3 times a week on the ice. I was working out probably 2-3 times a week as well. So I was fairly active. But based off of that weight of 177 pounds, based off of my height and my age, the doctor kindly told me that I was overweight. He even went as far as saying, well, you don't look overweight, but you are. Gotta hand it to him for trying to sugarcoat it as best as he can. And not gonna lie, I was floored. Like, I was really actually quite offended by that comment, because I felt like I was probably like in the best shape of my life, playing hockey as much as I did and working out. I felt really, really strong in the gym. And my ego was like, well, I just got too much damn muscle over here. That's what's weighing the scale a lot higher, right? Anyway, long story short, I also went to a snore doctor just to kind of see how my breathing is, because my wife hates sleeping next to me because I snore like a pig. I did a sleep apnea test and I had mild sleep apnea. And basically their recommendation was the same as my doctor's: lose some weight, because I was in the overweight category. So because 2 different people told me to lose weight, I finally put my ego aside, and I'm not young anymore. I'm 43 years old. I just told myself, okay, let's just listen to what these people have to say. Let's try to actually lose some weight. Now, for those of you who don't know, a skinny Asian guy like myself growing up, everyone's always told me that I've been too small and too skinny to always bulk up, to always lift heavy weights, to always eat more, to get bigger. To actually lose weight is something I've never actually done before. So my main motto is, if you don't have a plan, plan to fail. So we're not going to go into some like crazy like fasting thing to lose weight for like 2 days and then gain it all back. This has to be a consistent, complete lifestyle change. First part of the plan was to simply eat lower calories, so in a caloric deficit, in order to lose roughly 1 pound a week. So that puts me around 1,850 calories. And the next thing is to get my step count out per day. So around this time I was walking maybe only 4,000 to 6,000 steps a day. So I really needed to crank that up, try to really hit that 7,000 to 10,000 steps daily. And the other odd thing about this plan is to actually work out in the gym a little bit less. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through each of the months. So that's the actual game plan in the following months. So how did this actually affect me while I was playing hockey? Let's jump into that first month of May. We're starting off this diet at 177 pounds in the month of May. And the footage you're watching here is just a handful of shinnies, so not much defense at all. It's about like an hour and 15 minutes long, I believe. Pretty casual skate, not really expecting too much. But, nothing obviously changed in the first month here. I was really excited to go to the rink all the time. I was making the saves that I was expecting to make. I was eating a lot less than I normally would do, so my main diet was like a lot of lean proteins like chicken breast, and still a lot of rice to get the carbs for energy, a lot of salad as well too. The main thing that I did differently was obviously cutting out like things like eating an entire pizza or eating like 3 hot dogs in a sitting. So just simple things like that kind of add up in terms of the calorie count that I used to do, that I had to kind of like dial back on. Now, the first 2 weeks of this diet, I actually stayed at the same weight. I think I actually gained a pound or 2 during the first 2 weeks. And so that was actually quite demotivating. And I think around like the 10 to 12 day mark, when I didn't lose any weight at all, I almost felt like giving up. But then the 2 weeks after that, the pound started to really start to shed off. And that was actually really cool because it started to build some momentum. I was actually confident in what I was doing, and I was still maintaining my energy levels going to the ice and rink every single day. So at the end of May, actually ended up losing 5 whole pounds. So we started off at 177 pounds, trimmed down to 172 pounds within that 1 month, which is very cool because I've never actually lost like that much weight before, and I've never actually tried dieting before. And to be honest, I thought this was actually gonna be a really hard month, but it was actually pretty easy to lose the weight because I kept my proteins really high, so I wasn't starving all the time. I was still eating, hamburgers here and there, but just not 4 hamburgers in a sitting, so just like 1 or 2, and some fries as well too, of course. Can't miss out on fries. So losing that first 5 pounds, I didn't really feel or notice a difference on the ice. However, let's start to look at the month of June. The weather's getting a little bit hotter, and these sessions on the ice are starting to pick up a little bit more. So we're starting off the month of June at 172 pounds. Still kind of eating the same stuff. I actually stopped going to the gym completely around this month just because my energy levels, I could tell, were starting to decrease just due to the few calories that I've been having. Also, the summer season had already started as well too, so I was on the ice about 3 times a week. That's I think maybe 2 shinnies and then a league game, and just having that heavy lifting day in there just wasn't really working with the diet that I had. Also, my step count was going up in the 7,000, 8,000 range per day. That's because, again, the weather is getting a lot warmer out there, so a lot more opportunity to move around and walk around and things like that. So during the ice times that I had here, I was still feeling good for the most part up until the around mid-June-ish, kind of halfway through. I think I had lost a couple more pounds by then, but then I started to really notice a lot of energy fluctuations. I didn't really feel as excited to go to the rink, and when I was actually playing, I kind of felt like I couldn't make it through the entire session anymore. Kind of just ran out of gas a little bit there. And you have to kind of keep in mind that I'm actually still eating a very low calorie diet. And if I remember correctly, I actually started cutting out some carbohydrates because I started getting some momentum and losing weight. I kind of thought to myself, hey, what else can I cut out to lose weight even faster? So one other thing that I did in this month was I replaced all of my brown sugar with monk sugar, which is 0 calorie sweetener. I started drinking a lot of diet pop. Now I'm kind of actually a little bit addicted to diet pop because 0 calories, and it was a good way for me to curb my sweet tooth when I really needed it, when I was actually a little bit hungry. The cool thing about this month was I started to bring out my summer clothes, and hey, I was actually able to fit in summer clothes that I had never been able to wear in the last handful of years because I gained so much weight. So it was actually nice to be able to fit and look half decent. So I was really starting to see the effects on my body visually. Unfortunately, that started to take a bit of the toll on the ice. So at the end of June, we had lost another 5 pounds. So we started off at 172 pounds and we dropped all the way down to 167 pounds. And the cool thing about that was my wedding weight, 167 pounds when I got married, and that was 8 years ago. And that was one of my targets for this weight loss program, was to weigh the same as I did when I got married, and I had achieved it at 167 pounds. So things are kind of going well off the ice. On the ice, completely different story. At this point, again, I started to get a little bit greedy. How far can we push this? And I started to take out all carbohydrates out of my diet and just eating chicken breasts and salads every single day and not really caring about the energy stores and stuff like that. So that's going to lead into the month of July. Maybe I'm just getting a little bit old and senile, but sometimes I just don't listen to what people say. A lot of people tell me, hey, you're playing a lot of hockey, you need carbohydrates in your diet to keep playing hockey and keep going to the gym and things like that. I'm just like, no, I got this. We can do this with vegetables. I'm sure you can to some extent, but I can tell you for a fact that I was doing chicken salads every single day, maybe having a cup of carbohydrates for dinner, and that was pretty much it. And again, the weight was coming off quick, as it should, based off a diet that I was going on, but I think I was going maybe around 1,400 calories per day at this point, in the peak of summer heat as well too. My steps are cranked to about 10,000 a day, so my legs are actually pretty tired when I start to go onto the ice, so they're already worn out from walking around 10,000 steps, which is again something that I'm not totally used to doing yet. But looking back now, I think July was easily the worst stretch of hockey that I've played in recent memory. I was cloudy on and off the ice. When I had an ice time, just getting packed up and even just driving to the rink, I just felt kind of like sluggish and things like that. I was making poor decisions on the ice. I was second guessing myself. I couldn't track the puck at all. Like I couldn't stop a beach ball if I needed to. I just really dreaded playing hockey because the intensity and the pace, I think just due to the lack of calories and carbohydrates, I just felt like I really could not keep up. And even with my daily activities, I had a lot of troubles dealing with. So we started off the month of July at 167 pounds. We ended off not losing as much as the previous months, but we lost a solid 4 pounds. So we're down to 163 pounds. Don't forget that I started this off at 177 pounds. So that's almost 15 pounds lost. Now, what I just told you, that cloudiness, that dreading going to the rink, I could not maintain this. And I think you watching this, you probably think I'm pretty crazy doing this. I kind of had to reevaluate what I was doing. And I really needed to kind of fix the cloudiness that was going on because it's affecting everything, all parts of my life really. So the plan going into August, because I was at a low weight already, I think at 163 pounds, this is how much I weighed when I was in my 20s, I believe. And I don't think I was even this active when I was in my 20s at this weight. So the plan going into August was to up the calories a little bit, adding some carbohydrates back into the diet. So mostly brown rice and some pastas and just like brown bread and things like that. Not only that, I started to just add a fish oil and a multivitamin to my diet. That way I don't totally like collapse or pass out on the rink. But yeah, that's going to bring us into the final month of summer hockey, and that's going to be into August. Let's see how that went. So around this time, a lot of the shinnies have ended, and it's mostly just finishing off the regular season for the summer league and then jumping into the playoffs. And we started this month off actually 163 pounds. I'm happy to say that adding the carbohydrates, the multivitamin or whatever that was, it made a huge difference. Like I felt so much better after just adding some more calories to the diet. I was excited to go to the rink again. I felt like I started playing a lot better as well too. Unfortunately, I had to like make it up to this point for me to get my game back. But in terms of like weight loss and things like that, I think I had actually fluctuated between 165 pounds and 162 pounds during this month because I was kind of carb loading during game days and workout days and things like that. Speaking of workouts, I actually started to do some more training, but not barbell training, mostly primarily kettlebell work because I just didn't have the time with like a lot of family things to do. I didn't have the time to train at the gym like I normally would. And definitely the steps are well in the 10,000 mark. And you'll notice that I do wear one of those step counting watch things now. That's like the only thing that I really track now is how many steps I take because I feel like that's more important than actually getting your workout in most days, especially at this age. So we end off August actually fluctuating between 165 pounds, but lowest weight I think was around 162 pounds, which was awesome. So that's like a 15-pound loss from the day of getting my doctor telling me that I was too fat and heavy for my height to a trim 162 pounds. So as of this recording, it's the beginning of October. I'm actually weighing roughly around 162 to 161 pounds. And I feel great going to the rink. I've been playing a lot again. I don't train in the gym as much, unfortunately, just due to time constraints and things like that. But my diet basically just consists of the same thing that I had the course of the 4 or 5 months that I've been dieting, but knowing that I have to actually carb load on my workout days or my game days. And when I mean carb load, I'm not eating like a whole pizza to myself like I used to. It's just like a couple cups of brown rice, just kind of get the body going and things like that. And I think that's really helped. And I hope to lose a few more pounds at this stage and then hopefully get some more blood work done and just see if anything's changed and, you know, how things have been going in my body and things like that. But in a nutshell, that's kind of how my weight loss journey has gone, and it's been something that I never thought I would have to do. But heck, I'm at that age where, you know, these things are pretty important. It's not as easy to lose weight when you're older, and this is something that I've never had to do in my life, but something I took on as a challenge, and I'm happy to say that it was a little bit easier than I had expected. I wasn't really expecting the challenges that I had on the ice. I thought it would maybe make me better, but just kind of balancing that diet with rest and things like that, I think, you know, it could have been a little bit smoother, as opposed to being cloudy and dreading going to the rink and things like that. So if I were to do it again, I would not pull out all the carbohydrates out of that diet, but everything else worked out pretty well. And this is part of my plan now going forward. As an old goalie, and just in terms of like lifestyle, I think one of the main things that I learned from losing weight is just to try to have a healthy relationship with being hungry. I think a lot of us get worried when our stomach is gurgling and we just grab a couple of snacks to suppress that hunger, but you need to have that healthy relationship with it's okay to be hungry, because that means your diet is working. Kind of like when your muscles are sore, that means you had a pretty good workout, right? So that's kind of how I tricked myself into saying that this is all worth it. I think one of the coolest things about losing weight also is I could actually do my toe ties without my gut getting in the way. Now think about that.